war zone.
Is that where you cross?
No.
No, you don't cross.
No, that's
you?
sketch area there,
No.
man.
Is it?
I cross the best crossing there is. Porta Penasco crossing, the Rocky Point crossing.
Really? Huh?
Well, Sheldon blocked us hot.
We're hot. We're mic'd up.
Yeah, he tried to tell me he'd be hunting, like, what, less than a half a day after he left.
Didn't he leave Thursday? Or
Yeah.
Thursday?
Yeah, and he told me he'd be hunting Friday afternoon. I said, bro, there is no chance.
Yeah. I still don't know if he got his rifle across because I'm like, there's no way he got this rifle
yeah.
permits done in time.
There's a lot of this young Omar odd hunt he's on right now just does not match up.
To be young and naive.
It just doesn't match up.
Do we dare say it's more of Omar's debacles that he likes to do?
I mean, well, it's Sunday at noon and he's still not across the border. So yeah, it's an Omar debacle.
He took his own gun then?
Yeah,
supposedly.
supposedly they said he could get the permit in time. Like, there's no way you're gonna get your permit in time to do it. He's like, oh, yeah, no.
All my experiences in Mexico. Have you hunted turkeys in Mexico?
I have not.
No? Yeah, so there's a lot of turkey hunting down there. But yeah, all my experiences getting guns across is not that fast. It's not hard to do, but it's not that fast.
I think last year when I was gonna go down there, I had to do my permit in like March or April for the next January.
Yeah,
like, it was
Everything I heard was like a year in advance.
Yeah, that's what I do. I do mine in like early summer. And
So do we know he actually made it with his gun?
I don't know.
We don't know if he made it himself yet.
I know we sell a lot of like donated hunts and raffle them off, and pretty much everyone now I think about it, everyone is like guns included, like just so you don't have to worry about
Yeah,
that.
shield up.
Guns.
Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for making the trip down. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was the travel? Not bad?
It wasn't bad. I'm running on 2 hours sleep, so I'm a little delirious. I had an event last night in Wyoming, and then I had to drive to Billings to the airport, and yeah, I think I got to bed at 1:30, up at 3:30 to catch the flight. So
Perfect. Here we go.
And now here you are.
yeah,
Literally at noon the same day.
Who do we got, Trail?
Yeah, we have Jason Tarwater. Did I get your last name right?
he did. Yeah,
Tarwater. It's pretty
Pretty
That's a
sweet.
badass last name.
It is a good last
Pretty
name.
sweet last name.
it gets butchered a lot, believe it or not.
Really?
I'm like, just like it sounds.
Yeah, Tar.
I'm the master of butchering last names.
Hey.
so-
Well,
got it
Trail's
today,
last name, though. Everyone probably butchers yours.
Yeah, Chrysler. That's
Chrysler.
yeah.
I start calling you Chrysler.
That's the most common one I get. Even Porter doesn't know my name, actually.
Yeah, and then on the Marjorie
constant.
Panda shoot,
Yeah.
he always butchers it.
Yeah, butchers it. But thanks for coming down. Give us a quick rundown on who you are and why you think you're here today.
Oh no, I'm here yet. Yeah, so my official title is regional director. So that basically means I'm in charge of all of our fundraising, volunteer relations, chapter relations for the states that I cover is Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho
That's for National Wild Turkey.
for the National Wild Turkey Federation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And you live in Montana?
Yep. Live in Helena.
Turkey guy.
Turkey. We're talking turkey today.
Yeah.
We are.
Did you ever think we'd have anybody from NWTF or we'd be talking turkey here?
Honestly, it's interesting because I have found myself personally getting very into turkeys lately.
Yeah.
Recently. Yeah, just from the kid perspective.
Yep.
Been watching. I mean, this time of year, right? Everybody's posting all kinds of turkey content. So much of it is with their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I definitely need to start doing this.
Yeah.
Like my kid would be all about it.
It's perfect for introducing not only kids but just anybody into hunting in general. But I mean, like right now the weather's nice. Like for kids, I mean, you can put them in a blind and give them, play on their phone, give them snacks. I mean, it's a lot more.
And calling an animal in, I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah,
cool
and they
about
get to see that, which is, in most cases, like for other species, elk or waterfowl, it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great for getting kids and new people involved.
I would not have thought, Trail, that we would have somebody on, but it's interesting when you slacked me and told me we were doing it. I'm like, oh shit, this is perfect. I got all kinds of questions right now.
Well, what was it like? Was it a year ago or was it 2 years ago? We added turkey content to goHUNT Maps.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting deeper into like the opportunities of it now too, with an insider and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, we have turkey draw odds.
Yeah, turkey draw odds, how to get tags all throughout, both times a year. But that's the other cool thing about turkeys too, right? 2 seasons, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do all states have spring and fall? Do you off your top of your head in the West?
All states? Not all states.
Yeah, I don't know if all states do.
The fall season's more of a management season for turkeys, and so a lot of that's dependent on how the populations are doing more locally.
Yeah.
Like where I grew up in Kansas, I mean, a fall season the whole time I was there, we had a fall season, and if I remember it, I think they canceled it completely just because numbers have been doing
Does Utah still have their fall?
Yeah, fall
Yeah, right?
season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering. We'll probably get into it, but I was curious as to how you hunt a turkey in the fall. So it's just spot and stock.
Man, I've shot a lot of turkeys, and I've only shot one in the fall while I was deer hunting. It's just not something that I've really like took forth and put in effort. A lot of just happenstance. I'd always get a tag just in case, but
Gotcha.
there's some technique, old school techniques way back east of like busting a flock, sitting down right where they were at, and you can actually call them back in together. But it's just there's a lot more things in the fall going on that I like to chase. So
One thing I like though is like I killed a couple in the fall in Montana. I'd wait until like December in the snow.
Yeah.
And then kind of spot and stalking them a little bit in the snow.
Tracking turkeys? Is that what you were doing?
I mean, I could glass them up out in the egg.
That's probably the only thing I could actually track.
A big dinosaur track.
Yeah, big dinosaur
They stand
track.
out in the snow though.
Yeah, but that's really fun hunting turkeys in the snow.
That actually would be pretty sweet.
Give us some history of NWTF, and I mean just some background on the organization itself.
Yeah, I mean, so like a lot of these conservation groups, we got started because at one point the turkey numbers were like terrible. I mean, our 50th anniversary was just this past year, so 2023 is our 50th anniversary. So that's how long we've been around. And when we got started, like I said, across much of the country, turkey numbers were so low that people were starting to figure out like, hey, we need to do something about this.
So 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of how we got started. People just decided, hey, we need to do something about this, and so it started with some fundraising and raising money to work with the state game agencies, and that's when they started doing the big trapping and transplanting across the country. And up in, I think it was around 2000 to 2010, we hit the peak across the country, like 7 million birds.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's about the last time I turkey hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 7 million in one.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. In Utah, we started seeing turkey numbers, like real turkey numbers. And you could draw a tag, and they had a season that started in March. And maybe we'll get into it, but it seemed like they were a lot more easier to hunt. Easier to hunt March?
Springtime? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very, like,
even I can call one in.
but it's very similar to September in the elk woods.
Okay.
I mean, that's when they're vocal.
Right.
Yep. They're easier to find, easier to call, right, and talk to and communicate with.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Were low populations, was that nationwide? Like Eastern?
Yeah. Even like what we'd probably think of like traditional turkey country. I mean, it was pretty poor.
Huh.
Do you know what was the reasoning behind that? Is that predators, habitat, human population?
There was a time when all wildlife populations, were pretty bad, just overhunting and not really managed. Nobody really knew that we needed to manage them until they started disappearing. So that was a big part of it.
Yeah. The turkeys is one of like the major success stories of conservation, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Turkeys, whitetail, elk. Like those are some major success stories.
Yeah.
What were the primary factors? Like what methods were they using for recovery? Was it mostly just hunting regulation? Were they doing transplanting?
So both the regulation part of it, and then a lot of transplanting. They were finding populations that were pretty stable or pretty well off, and then trapping them and taking them to other areas of the country. Like in Kansas where I grew up, it was around, I think it was in the 80s. When I was really young. But they were, even at that point, they were still moving birds around and putting them different places. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not necessarily, I mean, some of it's still fairly new. I mean, out here in the West, I mean, like you just mentioned, we, like the turkey hunting and turkey numbers, I mean, a lot of it's still new to a lot of people out here. I mean, our numbers are still increasing from a lot of the initial, conservation work that we've done.
Seems like in Utah, at least, we had a boom, like 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right around that neighborhood. And then it feels like since then, at least to me, it seems like the population has kind of dipped again. What what causes that? Like with turkeys, what is the biggest influx of growth and then decline? Are they prone to weather? Are they prone to predation? I mean, what
out here? A lot of it's weather. A lot of it's weather.
Makes
driven.
sense.
I mean, turkeys aren't to a lot of the western states, other than like the Southwest. Turkeys aren't native birds to like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho.
They're not native.
Correct.
Really?
Yeah. So back in the like transplanting days, one of the initial goals was to recover populations in their original habitats in their original areas. And then they started moving birds to other areas. Just, hey, maybe they'll take off. Like central Montana, Lewistown area.
Yep.
A lot of people are familiar with that. Was like where the first release in Montana was. That was where the first turkeys touched the ground in Montana.
Do you guys get kickback from antis that they're non-native?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard. Have you heard?
No.
I've never heard anything
about that either.
No.
I don't even know if I want to say it, but
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to put that under the ethos, but
I've never heard one time somebody talking about that.
it is interesting.
It is though.
Because I know mountain
Very
goats,
interesting.
like if you put a mountain goat on a mountain
yeah.
range,
Yeah, no,
they make the claim that there's never been a mountain goat there. Boy, howdy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Here
big
we
deal.
go.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's people, obviously people know about it, and they may think that in the back of their head, but I mean, really, they're not detrimental to. For the most part, they're not really detrimental to much, other than like maybe haystacks, from
Yeah.
a creature in the wintertime when they're trying to survive. But
Yeah.
It's kind of like pheasants, though. In South Dakota, North Dakota, like they're not native to the United States at all.
I saw a pheasant.
Yeah, I thought it was a
yesterday.
Chinese bird.
And it's a state bird.
Aren't
but
they
it's
a
not
Chinese bird?
native. State bird, but it's not
Yeah,
native.
You guys want to get into this?
Yeah, we
Start talking about the Chinese bird.
We just got flagged on the podcast. We're talking about stuff we're not supposed
just
to.
giving lots of ammo.
Yeah.
What does turkey habitat look like? I mean, and maybe run us through different species of turkeys because you got them throughout. You got different subspecies, right?
yeah,
What?
Yeah.
Go run us through species and habitat.
How about you guys want to hear how good I am at turkeys now?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Have
So-
you killed a turkey?
No.
You never killed a turkey. Never hunted a turkey.
No, never. But the turkey slam. The
Okay.
golds, Miriam's, Eastern, Oscillated, Osceola, and I'm missing one.
Miriam.
Did I say Miriam?
he said Miriam's.
Yeah, you said it.
Am I missing one? I'm missing one. There's 6.
Rio.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was so close.
You're close.
I got
Yeah,
a turkey friend who I've been picking his brain quite a bit.
That's the World Slam. So there's a Grand Slam, which is just the Osceola, the Eastern, the Rio, the Miriam's, and then you add goes like Grand Slam to Royal Slam. That's when you add the Goulds,
Okay.
and then the World Slam you add the Oscillated.
Oscillated,
Yeah,
the
got it.
blue-headed one.
Yeah, I call it the Peacock.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
peacock
it
turkey.
definitely looks like a peacock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sounds like more of a peacock than a turkey, but
Yeah.
Where are they native to?
Yucatan.
Yeah, Yucatan.
Okay.
But
Only in South-
supposedly, so they used to drum them and then shoot them out of the roost. This is coming from my good turkey friend, who I've been picking his brain like crazy. But apparently they figured out how to decoy them now. So the hunts down there have gotten like really cool.
Interesting.
Because
Wow.
usually before, I guess you would just kind of like trek through the jungle and drum them and get one to drum back in the roost, and then you'd shoot them out of the roost.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're actually getting them to come down and decoy.
Interesting.
Be pretty badass. to go
And
kill one of those.
Goulds native to where? Southern Arizona.
Far southwest United States, and then Mexico right across the border.
Okay.
There's majority of populations in Mexico.
Okay. Commonalities between habitat. I mean, what does the turkey need to get by?
And that depends on where they're at. I mean, there's healthy turkey populations in good Western Ponderosa pine that a lot of us are familiar with. Like that's Miriam's country, right? The Eastern is probably more associated with like your big hardwoods, farm ground, cattle pastures. Basically from like that Eastern Kansas, Eastern Nebraska, east that type of country. I mean, they do need diversity. They need good nesting habitat, but also brooder and habitat for the poults when they hatch out. And then obviously food. Winter food is key. A lot of the farm country, that's why those numbers are like you'll see winter flocks of 200 or 300 at a time in Kansas, Nebraska, and the Midwest. And I mean, they've got the ag ground to survive all winter off of. And like we're talking about, like kind of out in our country, Montana area, Wyoming, that's a big limiting factor is getting these birds through the winter. And so, I made the joke about the haystacks, but legitimately there's flocks. That's how they get by, is living off of, Farmer John's haystacks. And we just hope that they are okay with it and understand it. Because that's when we do get some complaints, us and the state agencies. Because they can do a number to them. I mean, if that's their only food source all winter and you got a flock of 200 or 300 birds every day having to eat.
Yeah.
What's a turkey eat? I don't even know.
A lot of
You?
No, that's a good question. It's actually a really good question.
When Lane pitched us on having somebody from the Turkey Federation come on to the podcast, and then we had a little meeting about it last week, he was like, "You guys ready for the podcast?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, this one should be pretty easy because I generally don't know shit. So if I have somebody that knows turkeys and I can just sit and pepper them with questions, it should go pretty easy." But
I mean, most of what you'd think, seeds and nuts, like I said, in ag country, a lot of corn, leftover corn, things like that. But grasshoppers, crickets, any bugs that they can get a hold of, like pine nuts in our part of the world. And then, they'll pick through cow shit. They'll pick through haystacks. I mean,
They'll scavenge when they have to.
yeah.
or they're just eating grubs and stuff out of a haystack? Or what are they eating
Waste
out of a-
grain, waste grain,
waste grain.
grubs. Yeah, a lot of the haystacks, the grasses still have the seeds on the heads, so they'll pick through that too.
Gotcha. What? So in terms of National Wild Turkey Federation and Habitat, what kind of work is the Turkey Federation doing for Habitat? Like, where do those meet? Does that make sense? Does the question make sense?
Yeah. I mean, if you look across the country, right, that's going to be differ. What kind of habitat work that we're doing. But one thing that we have done is the last few years, we have looked more like landscape level habitat projects instead of we kind of had this shotgun approach at one point of like, just throw some money here and there and all these little projects that the state agencies and federal agencies, need help with. And we've got like these big initiatives now that are landscape level, watershed wide, statewide. We're kind of looking at like, how can we make a much bigger impact? When you look at like in the Western states, a lot of that habitat work, honestly, is timber management. It's a lot of thinning, prescribed fire. It's a lot of, we do a lot of we call it the WUI work, wildland urban
Interface.
Wildland urban interface.
Look at you.
Oh yeah, I remember a few of those acronyms from my days at the state.
We do a lot of work around that because, I mean, when you look at like our public land system, I mean, you could drive yourself crazy trying to figure out where you want to start working at. So, I mean, it makes sense to work at least around where like residential areas start. And like I'm more familiar with like Montana, for instance, because I live there. We do get a lot of birds that like to make home on people's yards, and I call them yard birds. They drive me nuts in the spring when I can't shoot them. But they all border national forest, or they're very close to national forest. So a lot of those projects are aimed at making the habitat on the national forest better, to try to at least give those birds a reason
to pull out,
to pull out, not only for opportunity, but just so we don't have those nuisance complaints and to get them on better habitat. But while we're doing that, I mean, we're thinning the forest, prescribed burning, like mule deer are benefiting, the elk are benefiting, grouse are, like everything's benefiting. But then like water quality starts to play into that for the citizens. And then a big push is, just that wildfire risk mitigation as well. So that's a lot of what we're focusing on in the West. I know in the Southeast last year we just launched, it's called Habitat for the Hatch Initiative. And basically it's looking at, we have nesting habitat, and then we have like very mature hardwood timber habitat, and we have started pinpointing areas where, okay, we have this nesting habitat now in the poletatch that they can't just survive in the hardwoods. There's got to be some early successional habitat is what it's called. little bit of brushy escape cover, but also, you know, most of a poult's diet is protein, it's crickets and grasshoppers and stuff. And so it's how can we have all these segmented pieces of habitat. Now, how can we focus on connecting them all? Because that's what we're thinking is a big reason for the reduction in numbers in the Southeast right now.
How long until a hatchling can fly?
Man, I knew you were going to ask questions I don't know.
Wait, turkeys can fly?
Wait a second. It's not one of the, what is there, like 12 flightless birds or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Because they're so big. Like, how long, until they fly?
I've bumped flocks up that, I mean, a couple months old.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
It's kind of where my head was at.
Yeah.
Like, they're so big. Like, I don't see them flying a couple days old or a week old, or,
no.
you know what I mean?
No, they're on the ground for a while before they can get up in the trees. Yeah.
The Google search thing says 8 to 14 days a poult can fly.
Oh, 2 weeks. Oh.
Yeah.
That was not where my head was at.
Wow.
8 to 14. Yeah, all these different sources. Yeah, usually about 10 to 14.
That's even faster than where my head went.
Pretty aerodynamic for what they look like.
Wait,
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
This could be fake too. It says in this Reddit thread right here.
Oh, you're on Reddit?
No, that wasn't Reddit yet, but that was the Reddit one. Turkeys can fly up to 60 miles an hour. What? Wait,
I mean,
how?
I don't.
I don't see that.
Fall? They might fall.
fall 60 miles an hour.
I was thinking like 20 to 30.
Yeah, I think you can't
They're
trust
just
Reddit.
so damn big. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
they're funny to watch fly.
They are funny. It kind of doesn't make sense when you see them fly.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a better one from Vermont Fish and Wildlife.
From
They
Rumble.
can run 25 miles an hour.
I believe that.
Wild
I've
turkey
seen
can
that.
fly at speeds to 30 to 35.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, don't trust Reddit.
60.
Huh. What's the kind of the life history of a turkey in terms of like mating season? We already talked a little bit.
Yeah.
You said they mate March. Is it regional?
It's very regional. Like right now in the far southeast, that's happening right now. I mean, the seasons in Florida and like Mississippi and some of the southern states have already opened up. It goes from there all the way through basically around mid-June or mid-May. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But like that April time frame is on average probably going to cover most of the country.
Okay.
I think I've seen like our hunting in Montana gets better after May 1st and
Gets better?
gets better. And I think,
Really?
and that's because most of the hens have already been bred
Huh.
and are sitting on nests throughout the day. So if you think about like the tail end of peak rut, now the males are very desperate looking for whatever they
Is
can
left.
find is left that hasn't been bred. So like I always tell people, I get calls all the time wanting to come to Montana or Wyoming or the West to hunt, and I always say wait till after May. For one, the weather's better. I mean, because we could get hit with a snowstorm in late April. But they're way more responsive to calls throughout May. I've had some of my better hunts like towards right at the end of the season.
Damn.
That's not what I thought you would have said.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good little
That's-
tidbit right there, though.
Yeah, not been my experience. I don't know if it's because I might just be a bad turkey hunter.
We don't know how to hunt it. Was the first
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, I don't even get to. I think I shot 7 birds last year, and my first one was May 3rd. I think it was last year.
7? Holy shit.
It's crazy.
That's the
Every time I've hunted turkeys, I've always been like opening weekend, like April 15th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I lived right there, though, so I'm scouting them out all the time. When I lived in Montana,
Yeah,
knew
and-
exactly where they're going to be.
and
They
it-
were still responsive in the set, but
Yep.
they were, like you said, kind of like yard birds, mountain birds and the ponderosas. But then, like, when I go to Utah, I get that limit entry tag in April. It's such a bomber hunt. And then I go into May as the general hunt. I kill birds in May. And some of the birds I have killed, well, they respond right away and they come right in. But then other times I'm just struggling in May. I don't know why.
That's what
Maybe
my
it's 'cause I'm
experience has
sucking
been.
too.
Yeah, back when they had a March season, it seemed really easy.
Yeah.
There's probably two things going on. There's probably also that
Regional.
I think what happened is we had a lot of turkeys back when I was turkey hunting a little bit, and taking my nephews out. But it seemed like maybe they hadn't been hunted really, so maybe they were dumb, like a little bit.
There's some
a
of
little
that,
bit of education there going on, and then maybe progressively, the more we've hunted them over the last decade and a half, that they've gotten
Figured
wiser
it
to
out.
calls, and so maybe they're just tougher to hunt. But it did seem like those early hunts were a lot easier. I thought that's what you were going to say. I thought you were going to say like March, April, and then it got tougher in May. So that's interesting.
I mean, there's some tactics early season. What happens early season? A lot of times those toms they still got their big groups of hens with them, so it's like a herd bull. They're hard to pull off, right? But a tactic that a lot of people use early season now is those full strut decoys, because toms are very, very territorial, and it doesn't take much just getting them in eyesight sometimes of a full strut decoy, and you'll pull them in. So that's like a really good early season tactic. Me personally, the reason I don't get too excited until May is I like to run and gun. I don't use decoys or anything. I just use calling and terrain. So it's like, that's what I'm looking for, is that one that's out there that's very lonely and he's gonna, put on a show for me.
Lonely old Tom.
Yeah.
Just to, just preying on the on the guys who are desperate out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of decoys and stuff, what do you think about, it's controversial for sure, the old reaping tactic?
What's that?
Yeah, what is that?
Putting a whatever fan above your head, walking out towards them, hiding behind it, and then dropping it down and shooting them.
Dressing up
It's a safety thing for sure.
Dressing up like a turkey?
Kind of. Wearing stupid things on your hat, walking around. And
You wear like a fan on your head.
There's a bunch of different products that have been put out there since this took off. And I don't know, maybe 10 years ago-ish, I feel like is when I really started seeing it. But I was just saying, toms are very territorial early, especially early season, but they're very receptive to literally just seeing a turkey's fan. They think it's another tom strutting in their area. So one tactic that a lot of people are using now is they just literally, like, a lot of guys will just hold it out in front of them, crawl behind it towards the bird until the bird locks on. And I mean, if you watch the videos, there's guys that are pulling up and shooting birds from me to you away because they're that, pissed
Into
off.
it, yeah.
Right. And now there's a bunch of products where I'm sure they got something that clips on the end of your gun and your bow, and there's these stakes that you can put in the ground, things like that. I don't know. It's a decoy. I mean, in essence, right? Me personally, like I said, I rarely use decoys anymore, just no matter what I'm doing. I went on this archery kick for a while with turkeys, and I was using decoys then just to get them to focus on something so I could at least get drawn. But when I'm running a gun with a shotgun, like, I just want my calls. I'm very minimalistic.
Yeah.
So it's not really something that I have done or really care to do.
And there's a lot of controversy around like the purist turkey hunters, and I'm kind of like one of those purist turkey hunters where I feel like it's an unfair.
You would have never guessed that.
It's like a total unfair advantage. You're using something else in turkey's mind biology then to totally trick them, and you're taking away the fun aspect of calling, of working a bird, and it's just almost cheating in a sense.
Yeah, there's in everything, right? There's hard lines to draw in the sand too. I look at it as I fell in love with turkey hunting due to the challenge of saying the right things to them and using the terrain to get them into that 40-yard range, right? You don't need to learn turkey behavior. You don't have to learn how to call. You really don't need any of that with that side of things if you wanted to go that route. That's the only reason that I'm, like, me personally, I don't do it. And I can see why there's a lot of people that's their mindset. But then there's the mindset of, I have a turkey tag, this works.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of cool.
Sounds
cool
amazing.
experience. Yeah.
I would do it without the killing part of it, just to get the birds that close, just to mess with them probably.
Yeah. That's what I mean. If you're really getting from me to you.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like
it
that,
absolutely is.
That would be a pretty cool experience. I think.
What do you think about archery turkey hunting? Because I know there's some talk that maybe it's not the most quote unquote ethical, shooting a turkey with a bow.
Oh, ethics. It's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
I've killed a lot of turkeys with a bow. My wife has killed a lot of turkeys with a bow. Like, we went on a 2 or 3 year. When we moved to Montana, we went 2 or 3 years of, like, that's just what we did.
Archery.
Different challenge, I guess, right? So I think what people need to understand if they look that route is, like, how accurate you are. I mean, it's like everything with the bow. But when I try to explain to people, I'm like, you're shooting at a softball that's inside of a beach ball and you can't see where the softball's at, basically. You got to just kind of envision where that's at, because that's really the vitals is literally, that's about all it is. And so there's that part of it. It is more difficult because you got the movement side of it. like with a shotgun anymore. I mean, 50 yards and in, you're pretty well good. When we were killing birds with our bows every year, I mean, 12, 15 yards. But there was a lot of birds that got away because they just did not commit to the decoy sitting in front of us, right? That I could have killed with a shotgun. So, but that's why I enjoyed it. It just gave me more time, more opportunity. There's a lot of states that have archery only seasons that are early. I mean, Nebraska is well known. Kansas is known for it. And there's a lot of people that that are taking advantage of it too.
Don't they have crazy good eyesight? That's one of the things I've heard, right? They have like
movement, right?
and like the radius of eyesight that they have.
The radius, they can see color, movement.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
if
bow movement.
if a turkey could smell, we would be screwed.
Really?
Like, yeah.
They see that well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So turkey can't smell. You don't have to worry about the wind then.
Yes.
Got it.
Which is good because typically everybody's lathered up in bug spray and ticker pellet and everything else.
That's what I've always enjoyed about it, is like the bow hunting turkeys. I've never shot one with a shotgun. I've maybe killed 10 plus, never shot one with a shotgun. I could have killed a shit ton of them if I had a shotgun in my hand. But like I said, it's that fun side of it. It's like working a bird.
Are they that noticeable to the movement? Like when you're drawing?
Yeah, drawing back, yeah.
It's that bad?
Yeah, even and sometimes like when I do it in the Ponderosa stuff, like either, Arizona, Utah, it's like I don't have decoys because I am just running around, sitting down, calling.
And that's with bow, man. That's so much harder because I've killed a few without decoys or anything like that with my bow, and it's like turkeys don't hang out very long when they come to a call and they realize something should be here and there's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
And so that's why we like typically when we were doing it with at least a hen decoy, just something to get them focused on something. But yeah, it's a task.
So when you say shoot one with a bow, you're shooting a softball inside of a beach ball that you can't see the softball, right?
Yeah.
What are you aiming for? What are you looking for? You got any tips or tricks for guys that are wanting to bow hunt?
So yeah, like if you picture like a turkey broadside, right, whether it's strutting or whether it's just standing there's a couple different ways that I've looked at it. I don't know. There might be guys with better ways to do it, but their wings almost form like a triangle, like right where they attach. There's the point.
You're talking the base of the wing.
Base of the wing. Yep. And so right in that area, but you can also draw a line up straight up from the legs, and then basically the butt and the beard. Right, and there's a T, and it all comes together right in that spot.
Are you trying to break that wing?
Not necessarily trying to. It helps.
Okay.
Because I mean, turkeys can fly even when they're injured, right, and get away very fast. Their feathers will basically stop you from following any blood. It sucks up all the blood. So there is some to the breaking the wing part, but that's literally right inside there is the lungs, heart, and everything in basically a softball sized area.
Do you get a lot of pass-throughs? Because I know that's when I shoot a lot of birds. I don't get pass-throughs with my bow. It's the same setup I use for deer. Yeah. Same broadhead, same arrow weight, 440 grains. I don't usually get a pass-through.
I've had a few, but typically, like you said, I haven't gotten a bunch. I mean, they're tough. The feathers themselves, as those broadheads, I think those broadheads lose a ton of force as they're just getting through the feathers. When I shoot turkeys with my bow, I use as big of a expandable as I can because sometimes getting that arrow to stick in them will help you be able to find the bird.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've seen birds, like, you get a full, like, pass-through, and then it's like a track race, trying to find them because they just take off.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect hit, but, in 10 seconds, they can cover some ground.
Are you waiting for broadside, or does it not matter?
No, I mean, if you picture, like, where that softball is, I mean, as a turkey rotates, right, you still kind of picture that. Like, if it's facing you, basically right above where the beard is, I mean, almost like cutting the beard off in a sense. And one of the easiest ones is if they're like fully strutting, turned away from you, because where all their feathers come together at their butt, like there's an easy bullseye target right there.
You wreck the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you kill the tom.
Yeah. and I've heard of a lot of guys aiming a little low and trying to purposely break the legs.
I would like take out the running gear in a way.
Yeah. Yep.
How far does a turkey go after you hit it with a bow?
I've had them go nowhere, and then I've seen a few. My wife killed one that actually flew off the rim rocks above Yellowstone River one time. That was a fiasco. We were right by it, so I mean, it took like 3 steps and
then jumped
and just locked its wings up. So that was a mess.
Did you recover it?
We did not. We're not able to recover that bird, unfortunately.
Yeah.
it was
Just full send off the.
looking
off the
back,
cliff.
it was like, if I'd have thought about that, maybe I would have set up right there. But
Yeah.
you don't think about that in the heat of the moment either.
But they can go ways, sounds like.
Yeah. Typically, like, there's a very loud, like, if you hit that wing bone or that leg bone, like that, if you hear that very loud bone crack, typically within 20 or 30 yards, I have found most of my birds, or they've piled up pretty quickly. But it's like everything in it, like,
Yeah.
something inevitable is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I always see people, they shoot a bird, they immediately jump out of the blind or whatever it is that they're doing and run after that.
Yeah.
Is that, is that the best case? Is that what you're supposed to do?
I've had some where I didn't do that, and then I was like, oh, I should have just, like, this would have been a lot easier, because he was flopping for a couple seconds and then got up and ran. I typically don't do that, like, unless on the shot you can tell, like,
Yeah.
and I need to, like, visually see where this thing's going.
Gotcha.
But that's for the most part, like with a shotgun and stuff. I mean, it's you pretty well know if you whack them pretty good.
Yeah. What are you shooting for a shotgun? Like, what's a good turkey load setup?
Man, we've went down to 20 gauges over the last couple of years with the technology and the shells and like TSS loads and tungsten and choke tubes, like
Yeah.
mainly because our 20 gauges are lighter to carry around all day.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, my wife actually, she still shoots she's got a Beretta 12 gauge, and I think last year she shot all her birds with that. So it's like everything, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, the biggest thing is patterning shotguns. I've made that mistake before of, hey, I'm not going to shoot a bird unless he's within 30, 35. Like, here's my choke tube. I don't need to shoot it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you shoot and you're like, whoa, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've done that twice and I have to shoot again to kill a bird. And then you go pattern the gun and you're like, whoa, this is like my pattern's all over the place. Like, I didn't expect that. So there's something to finding that right choke tube and shell combination.
That's what mainly is shells, choke tube combo. Figure out what works for your gun.
And waterfowl's the same way.
Oh yeah.
Like back in my waterfowl days, I mean, it was all about that.
Would you pattern a waterfowl gun?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Never patterned a waterfowl.
Depending on what the shoot was, if it was big open water, or if it was, dry fields or whatever it was, or you're shooting geese or shooting small birds, whatever it was, like, it was very important to have the right choke tube and load in there.
Yeah, and I've seen, I haven't had this happen, but I've seen where, for whatever reason, a gun with the specific tube and load will shoot off one side, or like high right or low left, or and so, like, you either need to correct that or at least know, right? So
Yeah.
Take us through. I'm curious as to what other gear a turkey hunter needs, and specific to calling, because I mean that's the magic, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to call turkeys.
Yeah.
Do you like a diaphragm call, mouth call? Do you like slate? I mean, to take us through some of the equipment that you think every turkey hunter should have or needs to have.
I mean, like, a box call is like a really go-to, especially beginner call. It's just very easy to operate and usually sounds good enough to kill birds. They take up space.
Yeah.
So I usually don't have a box call with me, but I've been turkey hunting a long time too. My personal preference is I carry 2 or 3 mouth calls, 1 or 2 slate calls.
Okay.
Like, that's all I carry. I know guys that have like 10 mouth calls and 4 or 5 slate calls and a box call or 2, and those decorative wing bone calls that you see guys make, they'll have that. I do carry usually like an owl hooter or a crow call, because birds do shot gobble to loud noises like that, and so that's one thing that I have keyed in on over the years is, like, I would rather know where the bird is at before I start hen calling, because then you don't know what they're doing. Like, are they coming to me while I'm trying to set up on them, type of a thing. It'd be very, very nice if we could figure out a way to get elk to, like, shock bugle, right? Like, I've always thought about that. Like,
bugle.
Slam the door when you're leaving the trailhead and it goes and bugles.
yeah, that doesn't work for elk, unfortunately. But yeah, like, slamming the car door, like you said, like, any loud noise on a lot of turkeys will get them to shot gobble.
Really?
Yeah, and there's never been science behind it. Like, I used to hunt next to a place that had peacocks, and when those peacocks would scream, turkeys would gobble if they were close by. Like, it's just, I don't know if they're just so amped up at a certain time. Like I always have tried to associate to like closing time at the bar, and you got that one guy that's like just amped up, ready to just ready to fight, you know, and it doesn't take anything to set him off. Like that's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I run a couple different slate calls, or got a glass, they're pot calls, slate call and a glass call. And then usually 2 or 3 diaphragms is all I typically run. But almost, I'd say 90% of the people that I know that turkey hunting, the box calls are always a pretty good go-to.
Another aspect of turkey hunting I love, again, because I'm like a purist person, but I do love custom calls.
Oh yeah,
just all the designs, the different things I can do to it.
You should go to at our national convention. I don't know if you've ever seen the photos or any of the videos.
Yeah,
we have a custom call like competition portion, hundreds and hundreds of calls, and they are they're working calls, and you look up at pictures of those things, and I don't know how they make them working, but they're elaborate pieces of art.
Yeah,
really,
like it is absolutely incredible.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Actually,
one of my first Merriams I killed. I always save the feathers off turkeys because I think they're gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I sent the feather to a guy, and he put it in one of my glass calls, like on the bottom of the glass.
Very
and, like,
cool.
Also that stuff, like just love that. Just it's a piece of art in a way.
Yep.
Yeah,
it feels cool that when you call something in with that, like
I could definitely get into that
you
part
should
of
look
it.
that up. I mean,
Yeah,
I get blown away every year at our national convention.
that's awesome.
just what people can do and how they can make them so custom and just sound so good. The custom call, even the box calls.
What is the call strategy though?
Yeah.
If you think about it, Trail, like when we elk call, like, you know, locator bugles, challenge bugles, and then your cow call and hawk cow, all that stuff, right? There's the strategy depending on what time of year it is. What's the strategy on turkey calling?
For the most part, you're replicating a hen.
That's
Right.
the go-to.
That's the go-to. I mean, there's guys that they try to gobble, try to get that reaction, similar to like bugling at an elk. But for the most part, you are basically just trying to sound like a hen that he has no choice but to come check out. There is some strategy to that. How often you call, how loud you call, when to shut up. That's a big elk thing as well, right? Like those birds can pinpoint you just like an elk. Like I know exactly what tree that call's coming.
They have telescopic hearing then, just like elk does.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I've killed a lot of birds by locating them, figuring out a good place to set up where I've got like whether it's shadows or background behind me, that sort of thing.
Run us through, if you would, like take us through a whole scenario. Like,
oh boy, okay.
If you can.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Like
set up in the morning.
Yeah, somebody's never turkey hunted before. Like what are you doing? Are you scouting? And then how are you setting up? What are you doing?
Yeah. So biggest thing obviously is finding birds, right? And the good thing about birds on the roost is they like to gobble in the mornings a lot before they fly down for the day. But they also will gobble in the evenings when they fly up to the trees. And so if you can find a high point in the evenings to where you think there's turkeys in the area and listen, and this is where like your crow call or your owl hoot, something like that, come into play, slam the car door, car horn, anything. You can get a pretty good location of where that bird is at in the evening, and like they're going to be there in the morning. They don't move around at night.
When you're talking about evening, are we talking about right at sunset or first hour after sunset?
Right at sunset, and then I haven't got them to gobble too late at night.
I've never been able to do it either, like too late in the evening.
No.
So like twilight, like that gray light is the best time.
Yeah, I mean they pretty much fly up right around that shooting light time frame.
Yeah.
They don't gobble nearly as much in the evening, but a lot of times you can at least get 1 or 2 gobbles out of a bird.
And they won't move during the night.
No.
They'll be up there.
They'll tree hop a little bit, but I mean they'll be
right there.
Yeah.
So you get some elevation in the evening, that time frame. And
You just need to be able to hear, right?
Okay.
That's the big thing, is getting to a high point where you can hear as much as you can. And if you can locate them in the evening, I mean, that's a head start, because now in the morning you already know where you're going. But if you don't locate them in the evening, my typical mornings start out the same way, getting to high points and listening. Looks like road bugling in the in September. You just drive the roads, get to high points and listen, try to get something to sound off. And then once you find one, then obviously the hunt starts. It's like a lot of things, getting as close as you can without any interaction.
In the dark?
Yeah. Yeah. If you know where they're at, or if you can locate one before it gets too light, yeah, I mean, use that darkness to your advantage.
And how close you trying to get to a roost tree?
I don't try to get right on top of them. I mean, you can get too close, obviously. But I'm typically like 100, 150 yards.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you can get a little bit closer. I mean, I have gotten closer, but sometimes too close, they can pinpoint what's going on. If you do end up too close, and this is like, I have done it where you're like, oh man, that bird's like 30 yards away in this tree. Don't call at all. Like, let them fly down and do their thing for a few minutes before you call, or like it's guaranteed they'll probably figure out something's up and fly the other way. But another reason is, for me personally, birds like to roost in the same general areas. Merriam's in the west are a little bit more mobile. Like growing up in Kansas, I could almost tell you like the exact trees birds would be in without us even scouting. And so what I always feared was setting up too close and blowing the roost, basically, right? Like shooting a bird off the roost or coming back in the evening to the roost, and then like they just don't feel safe in that area anymore. So I like to at least get off of that a little bit. And a lot of it is, like I said, finding the right tree with cover where if you have to move a little bit, you can get away with it, that sort of thing. And then just figuring out the situation. Does he have hens with him? I mean, there's so many variables. If he's got hens with him, that's going to be a different challenge. Like, you may end up having to try to call the hens to you, which is a more aggressive calling. It's a little bit different sequence. Are they pressured? I mean, I've called in birds. I called in a bird for a buddy down in New Mexico that it was late season. These birds were pressured, we could tell. And I called very subtly to this bird until he responded on the tree 2 or 3 times, and then I completely nothing else. And I was set up about 200 yards from the bird, and my buddy was 100 yards from the bird. And I told him, I said, I'm just going to shut up, like, just be ready. And like, that was one morning that I was absolutely correct on what was going to happen. That bird flew down, never said a word, but was coming to me. But since he'd been hunted, obviously he wasn't saying anything. It's like when elk shut up, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities now with what you're talking about with elk.
There's so many, yeah. Pulled him right past the gun. Now, if it would have been early mid-season and that bird was all by himself, hadn't been hunted much, I mean, I probably could have made a show out of it, and seeing how many times I could get him to gobble before he comes in.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like if a herd bull's locked onto a bunch of cows, call in the cows at that point.
Yeah.
Bunch of lost cow calls and try to get the cows to run in, and hopefully the bull follows. It's kind of the same situation.
And the first bird I killed last year, I'd seen him. He was out in a pasture with, I think there was 3 hens, and he was answering my calls, but like I could see him and the hens, and I was like, I know how this is gonna go. So I snuck as much as I could on him. And every time the hens were talkative a little bit, and like you can tick off a hen it's fun to do. But like if whatever they do, whatever sound they make, just mimic it and then start cutting them off with it. And if you get a hen triggered, like she'll let you know, but same thing, she'll come in like
a lot of human comparison right there.
This is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's all I did is I got that hen all worked up, and then I shut up, and so she came looking like, who's this woman here?
Yeah.
And pulled him, right past me at 20 yards. So a lot of it's like different situations, right? Just like calling most things.
I can imagine it's hard if they shut up, right? So they're gobbling on the roost.
Oh yeah.
And then fly down and then nothing.
Then nothing. Yeah.
Then what do you do? Do you sit? Do you give it time to develop, or do you move on?
I would typically give it some time, especially if he's answered you on the roost 2 or 3 times, because he knows something's over there, right? Mm-hmm. So I usually try to give it some time. I'm very impatient, and I'm bad about giving it time. I'm like, all right, man, if you're gonna play hard to get, I'm gonna go find something else to play with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've killed a lot of birds where you shut up and all right, I'm gonna sit here for 20 minutes, and 15 minutes later, all of a sudden, oh crap, here he comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the hard part is to stay shut up because you want to hear them gobble.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I gotta do.
That's the same way. When they shut up, but
Yeah.
you can like hear sticks breaking and something. You're like, what, you know, like
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
going on? Is he coming towards me? You don't know what to do, and then you hold tight, and the next thing you know, here he's coming in. He's just being quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my wife and I, our favorite saying is, well, he's either coming or going, because like
Yeah.
you can tell, okay, he shut up. He hasn't answered me in 2 or 3 times.
So he's moving somewhere.
So he's either on a path right to us, or Hen's taking him away. We didn't know that she was there,
Yeah.
or he just knows, you know,
Yeah.
he knows the ball game.
So let me get this straight, just for my own good here, because I want to take my kid out at some point and do this. So either find him at night or in the morning, and if you do, set up about 150 yards away. So you're calling before it gets light. You're making a little bit of calls before it gets light,
If I know they're there, I try to wait until they at least gobble once or twice on
and
the
then you
roost.
call.
And
So let
then-
them go first.
And then yeah, the thing about it is like calls when the birds are still in the tree are way different than when they get on the ground. It's very, very subtle, light yelps, like super light. Just I always like start so light that I don't think they can hear me, and I'll get a little bit louder and a little until he answers me, maybe twice, and then typically I'll just shut up. Like he knows I'm here, and then I'll wait for him to fly down, and like the sound of their gobble changes right when they go from up in the tree to down there. So you can typically tell when they fly down.
Yeah.
Or you can hear them, or if you can see them, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when it's like, okay, this may take a while because sometimes they have their morning routine, and every few minutes just a light yelp. Wait it out. If they've got hens with them, that's when it gets really tough because they just may be like in their pattern for the day. I'm just going to follow these hens around. That's why to me I don't like the early season as much, because typically they have a big flock of hens with them.
But if they are, that's when you mimic the hens, cut them off.
Yep.
Do that whole thing. If the gobbler's responsive, that's when you're just trying to sweet talk them, just like a bull elk.
Yep.
Right. Like just okay.
Are you using topography to try to like predict which direction they're going to go?
Oh yeah, yeah. So they always like to go above the sound. So that's they always try to get the high ground on you. Like I've noticed that more and more every year. Is so like if a bird's coming in, more than likely like he's gonna try to come in above you, and it's I've noticed this at least in my elk hunting experience too. Like the elk like to do that. I think it's just to get the visual side of things. But yeah, so I've always, like when we set up to call, if it's like my wife's got the shotgun, I always like go up a little bit from me, because typically they'll try to get elevation on you. Yeah, I mean they do use the topography to their advantage too, right?
Are you trying to get to like the ridge line to like bring them to the top of the hill so that they can't get above you? Or
They like if there's a ridge line close, like yeah, and in our country out here, yes, they'll try to get to the top of it. I've seen birds scale some things that I'm like, what are you doing just to
Really?
get up above me? Yeah.
roost sites, are they common? They have commonalities between roost sites as well. Like I'm talking primarily out west.
Yeah.
Are they primarily ridge lines, peaks? I mean, valley bottoms, drainages.
In big timber, there's really not a consistent that I have seen anyway. You start getting into more open country than like your creek and river bottom, obviously. Where the
Like
bigger,
cottonwoods
bigger
or-
trees are, yeah. And that's where you'll find more traditional roost sites. Like when you're chasing them in like ponderosa pine stuff.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean,
They could be anywhere.
I have found a bird in the morning, chased him almost all day, knew which direction he was going when I left him at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the next day, like 2 miles away, I'm pretty sure it's been the same bird. It is in a different tree.
Yeah.
Like I think some of our Merriams, like they hit the ground and they just go, and it's whatever tree they're next to, and they decide to fly up that evening. But like in early season, a lot of the big winter flocks, I feel like it's a little bit different. Like they do like certain areas, but there's not I don't say like consistency really across the board, at least in our country.
Right.
Pinyon and juniper country, they'll roost in any juniper.
I've seen them roost like 8 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And yeah. I've see, I think my wife killed that bird. It was a ponderosa pine. I don't know if lightning or fire anyways, it was like a stump 8 feet tall off the ground. I had one limb coming off the top of it. And I was looking across, I heard this bird gobbling in the evening. I was trying to find him in the treetops. Like, where is this thing? And then I looked down and I'm like, he's 8 feet off the ground. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And maybe that's why we were able to kill him. He just wasn't very smart, but
That's the one I'm looking for. I need that one.
Yeah. So if a bird, you mentioned earlier that like maybe the hens will take him and they just they're going their own direction, and I've had this happen where I didn't know what happened to him. Like they just disappeared, gone, didn't hear him gobble, and they just went quiet like an elk will sometimes. Like what's your next step? Are you just cruising country and calling? I mean, where do you go from there? Are you hunting that same bird, trying to catch up to him?
if I do, I'll try to find him later in the day. Like I mentioned earlier, hens throughout the breeding season, when we're hunting them, they have nests on the ground, and there's more and more hens that have nests the later you get into season. So those hens will fly down and feed for a little bit, peck around, but then they got to go sit on a nest all day. And so what happens is that Tom may have had 6 hens with him to start the morning, but by 11 o'clock in the morning, he may not have any, or he'll have 1. And that's honestly like that 9 a.m. to 2, 3 p.m., that time frame, middle of the day. Like I've probably killed more birds in that time frame than any because of that. That's when they get desperate. Like they don't have those hens all day long for the most part. And so it some of that depends on time of year. If it's early season, more than likely he's going to have those hens most of the day. So, you know, you can try to make loops on them and get in front of them, do that sort of thing, or just try to find another bird and then just take note. Maybe I'll try to find him later in the day.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed is like middle of the day, I can hear Tom, you know, gobbling way off in the distance. I try to move in on him. And I swear they always can somehow see me. I'm going to the timber. Like,
because you're 8 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm 8 feet tall.
You're as tall as the tree. So
And
yeah,
one thing, I'm talking about
Like there's a sick nest or a roost tree coming out.
yeah.
I'm gonna keep that in
all these
mind.
big like ponderosa pine forests, you know, there's not a lot of cover or whatever to move around in. So
Yeah.
like, how do you know when to stop and when you're getting too close in that sense? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I hear him. I think he sounds close, but maybe he sounds far away based on the terrain. And I just keep working. All of a sudden, I don't hear anything anymore. And I'm like, oh yeah, he probably saw me and ran away.
Probably
So,
did, because I think that same way, and that happens to me all the time, is you just push it too far.
pushed too far now.
Yeah, and it is so hard, especially in our country when, you know, we've got a lot of Merriam's blood. A Merriam's Tom will sound like, the gobble will sound like an Eastern Jake. Like there's just not much behind it. And
Not a lot of testosterone breeding.
exactly.
Sad.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've called in birds before in Montana, and I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure this is a Jake. Like here, but you never know. And sure enough, it's got a full fan. It's an adult bird. And so, but then I've called in birds that were Jakes, and I was like, I did not think that was a Jake coming. So that's really difficult, especially with the topography that we hunt in. Like you're talking about these, you know, rolling ponderosa pine forests. So I have done that a bunch, and then like well-managed ponderosa pines are pretty open. And so, yeah, that's the big challenge is where's that line? How far can I go to him before it's too far?
So I sit down and it's like, you start calling, and they're calling over there. They're making no movement towards you. And I'm like, gosh dang, I gotta go closer, and I go closer and closer.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like shit. Wreck that one.
Two things happen. One, either they seen you, or 2, he has hens with him and they just took him the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like midday, later season, because you don't have to battle so many hens.
And I'm always hunting early, like right away during round opener.
How far away? What do they do during the day? Like what's a turkey? They fly down. They got hens. Are they feeding all day? And I would assume once those hens are sitting eggs, they're going to a nest and they're sitting eggs.
Yep.
What's a Tom doing all day? Does he bed up? Does he roam around all day?
I think it's the personality of the individual bird, because I've seen Toms that like they'll stay. They do like to get on high points that are kind of open. I mean, and they will sit there and strut all day, gobble occasionally. Like anybody that can hear me, I'm right here. You know, come join me. But then I've seen Toms that literally are like cross country runners for the day, and they just take off. I mean,
I don't want that, Tom.
they'll cover 2, 3, 4 miles in a day, just, you know, cruising really. And they might gobble a couple times when they get to high points just to, try to locate a hen. But yeah, it's very dependent on like where you're at, what the terrain's like, and then just the individual bird.
And once those hens are sitting nests, you'd assume that they're probably not far from their roost tree, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And then, but a Tom, he'll hit the ground, maybe check on them, and then just cruise looking for other hens.
Yep.
And he may not end up roosting back there with them that night or not, right?
Yeah, I think some of that depends on like if most of those hens in that general area have been bred and are sitting on nests. I can only imagine he's probably like, I'm going to go somewhere else now.
Yeah. So out west, most of those hens you think would have been bred by when? May, middle of May?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think our peak breeding is more towards like that second, third week of April.
Okay.
And so that's why I always try to, target after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, typically by then. Now, not all hens have been bred by then, right? There's still some out there, or nests will get raided or whatever, something, Mother Nature happens. And then...
will they second cycle?
They will second cycle, yeah. Yeah, they'll re-nest.
Do they double clutch? Will they do two clutches in a season?
It's Mother Nature, so like every now and then you hear of that happening. Like it's very possible.
Nature will find a way.
Anything can happen, but I don't think it's as common as most people might think.
Right.
And typically the later in the year that they nest, the less successful those nests are, just because there's more predators on the landscape. The warmer it gets, there's more things coming out of hibernation. There's the fur-bearing predators, now they're young, are getting bigger and eating more and more throughout May, June, July. So that's why you see actually a lot of another reason why I see a lot of states making their season dates later and later.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of states that, like I said, mid-March, first part of April. Well, and there's a lot of those states that their numbers are starting to decline. They're thinking it's ones that might be that predator issue. But another reason is the hierarchy like of the flock, and this is something that like some science has just recently started backing this theory. Is it used to be thought where like if you take the dominant tom out of a flock early season, then it's basically like next up, right? Next in line to do the breeding. But the theory has been those hens are way more selective than we think. And you might have taken the one out of the area that she is okay with breeding with, and she may not breed.
Wow.
And so that's why they're trying to back season dates up now. So let's make sure that we get the breeding done before we start, because it may take 2 or 3 weeks for that flock to figure out its hierarchy again too. And now you're pushing those later nest dates.
It actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, like Kansas and Nebraska, their early archery seasons, everybody was flocking to them at one time. Because like Nebraska, you could shoot 3 birds. Kansas, you could shoot 2. You're getting them early season with, full strut decoys are very susceptible. Success rates were, even with the archery game, were pretty high. Well, now their numbers are, going downhill pretty dramatically. So that's why, one of the thought processes to backing those season dates up.
The turkey numbers are down too then, huh?
Yeah. We don't see it in the western states yet, and I hope we don't. But like, I grew up turkey hunting in the heyday of Kansas. I mean, you could shoot 2 birds, and if me and my buddies were like 10 days into season and still had tags, we're like, man, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Hadn't been out.
Yeah, like, usually the first couple of days. I mean, there was a time in my area where I grew up where like there was a lot of turkeys, and turkey hunting was fun for a couple of weeks, and then you're like trying to find people to take that have tags at that point. And now in Kansas, I mean, it's down to 1 tag. Part of state, there's no tags. Some of them you got to draw now. No fall tags. I mean, so
it's changed.
It's changing. Yeah.
I think some of that is over hunting over the years. Like, non-residents always like to get thrown on the bus and a lot of things. I just see a lot on turkey stuff too. I don't follow it exactly, but
Nebraska put a quota on their non-resident, and I have to look at the Kansas stuff. I haven't gone back to Kansas to turkey hunt in a while, so I can't remember. But I know they have a draw now. So I mean, some of it's either over hunting or just the pressure over, just over pressuring birds. But then just the sheer numbers. I mean, to put it in perspective, the properties that we hunt, we deer and turkey hunt in Kansas. It's like 6 different properties, all within like a 10-mile radius. And when we first moved to Montana, we would go back every spring. That was like, see the family. My wife loves turkey hunting. Like, let's just go back for a few days and shoot some birds. And we typically would each kill one. Maybe good years, we'd both kill our 2 within a few days. I took a volunteer back, I don't know how many years it's been, probably 6-7 years ago. And any of these spots, I could sit on a high point on the road and be like, there's going to be a bird somewhere here that we're going to be able to chase. And we went back and went to the first spot, and there was one. Okay. I went to a couple other spots, didn't hear anything. Went to a couple other spots. Okay, there's one. And I was like, man, this is, you know, I talked this trip up to this guy, like, man, I'm going to show you how we really turkey hunt. Mm-hmm. And we ended up, we put in some effort. He killed his 2 birds. And it was just in the back of my head of like, man, that shouldn't have been that hard. Mm-hmm. I went back the following year, and this was the last year I was back. I went to every single one of those properties, and I did not hear a gobble on any of them. One of them had like 5 hens on it. I was like, there's got to be a tom around here somewhere. And the next morning, like, I knew where the hens were at. There was no tom. I ended up going to one of the local WMAs, and I went to it particularly because I used to manage it, so I know it very well. And I ended up killing my bird on that. So I went from private to public to get to some better turkey hunting. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I haven't been back since. I think the last couple of years, at least in that area, it seems like has been on the uphill. But it's still definitely not nearly what it used to be.
What's the number 1 predator of a turkey?
Depends.
Raven.
But it's like, yeah, time of year is playing a big thing, but.
I mean, if you want, so humans are big if you look at like the habitat side of things, right? Like destroying habitat, giving them less places to live. Like actual physical predator, I mean, like the nest raiders, the fur bearers can be pretty hard on them in certain places. You know, I've seen videos of coyotes chasing turkeys and killing turkeys. Avian predators, actually, your owls and your hawks, especially when the birds are roosted in the tree. Eagles. I mean, I don't know if there's like a number 1 across the board, but a little bit of all of that.
For eggs, we're talking like coons, fox.
Yeah, skunks.
Skunks, really?
Yeah.
You would think the expansion of those animals has probably been tough on turkeys. Because, I mean, you've got... Mm-hmm. I don't ever remember as a kid seeing raccoons in my area, but now they're everywhere. I see them. I see them hit on the highway all the time, like all over. I mean, Cedar City, all along the Sevier River, to see dead raccoon.
Never used to see
and I
that.
never saw one as a kid.
Are there? I think in some areas, like the boom of turkey numbers might have also helped the predator numbers, and now the turkey numbers are coming down. We're seeing the predators just maybe haven't had that same effect. But predators also are, I mean, they can survive a lot easier in different places too.
Yeah, same thing. Red foxes, ravens, see them all over. I mean, I don't know. And a lot of that, we didn't have a lot of predators when I was a kid. I'm probably dating myself, but it seemed like we were a lot harder on predators back then than we are now.
No, I think across the board, between trapping and predator hunting in general.
Yeah.
I know when like growing up in Kansas, my roommate was probably one of the hardcorest coon hunters that there was, running hounds. And I think between him and one other guy, that was like the only 2 in the whole county. And I don't even know if they do it anymore. So
I remember my mom. So my mom's originally from Indiana. Her dad had coon hounds, and she tells a story. So my mom was born in the 60s, or 40s, I guess. Her dad, she tells a story. Her dad paid $500 for a coon hound back then, and she remembers telling me, she remembers, she'd be like, that amount of money at that day, that stage in my life, like they didn't even have running water a lot of the time. I mean,
and they got a coon hound.
Sounds like a good investment.
The guy paid, $500 my grandpa for a coon hound. So
that's like a lost art, I think, in a lot of places. I mean, I know there's still guys out there running dogs, but like the guys that are really hardcore about it, I think it's just one of those things that's fallen off.
Yeah.
Can we have winter kill on turkeys? Like this last winter we had, harsh across the west, that can knock back turkey numbers.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's one of our big limiting factors in our part of the world. Like I said, because we don't have like those big, massive ag fields and things like that. So, if anybody's familiar with like the southeast part of Montana, that Ashland Ranger District, national forest down there, that used to be one of the strongholds for Merriam's across the country, really. And there's a couple factors, but one was the winters. First one was that massive wildfire that went through. I think it was in like 2012. But the years, like 2 or 3 winters following that were just terrible. And now, like, there's still birds there, but it is rough. It's very rough to find. Black Hills area, same thing. Every now and then we'll have a really, really bad winter. And the only birds that make it are the ones lucky enough that, they've found the haystacks in the right places where they're not getting ran off of them. And those numbers go up and down. I mean, every now and then Wyoming will have 2 tags available for that area of the Black Hills. Every now and then just one, just because of the way the numbers are.
How long does it take for a population to rebound? A Jake is what, a year old?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then how long does a turkey live? How long does a tom live?
I mean, they can live like 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay.
But typically, probably that. I mean, you see a lot of 2-year-olds getting shot. A 3-year-old bird is an older bird now. So
really?
That 3, 4-year-old, yeah.
So those turn over pretty quick.
Yeah, but they rebound just as fast too. I mean, it takes one really good hatch and a good summer of like the right conditions, and then not having a hard winter, for a couple years in a row. Like they can rebound really fast, just as well as they can plummet.
How many eggs does a hen lay? Do you know?
I've seen nest of 6 to 8, but I've seen nest of like 18.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Wow. So that also varies, and a lot of that depends on the condition of the hen. Right?
Yeah.
Like in areas where they're stressed throughout the winter, they're probably not going to have that giant clutch like that.
18.
It's quite a few birds.
But you can see where they have, like I said, a couple good winters.
Yep.
They can totally rebound, especially if you're only talking about 3, 4-year-old birds.
So is
it take long to get there.
Is the late winters the hardest on them then? Like if you're getting winter storms into April, like April, May, is that what's really hard on them?
Yeah, we had.
Or is it just winters overall? Like, is it snowpack or is it those late big winter storms?
I mean, it's both. Like snowpack, unless, like I said, they have some food source that's above that snowpack. I mean,
yeah,
they got to be able to get to the ground, right, somehow. But those late spring storms can do it too. Like especially in Montana, we had one.
Yeah, that's what. Sometimes you'll get snowstorms in like into May, a couple feet.
Yeah, was that last year? I think it was last year. My wife shot a bird opening day, actually up in the breaks. I shouldn't get that specific. Everybody knows that there's birds up there.
The breaks in Florida.
Right.
That's what we meant.
But that area, I think it was 2 weeks after that, got 20 inches of snow last year. And so like you're looking at the tail end of April when things are nesting, and that was my biggest concern. Was like, oh man, like that
could wipe out that year.
That could hurt things, yeah. And I don't know, I haven't talked to anybody in that area this year or anything to see how they did, but our winter hasn't been bad this year, so that a little bit of a trade off there.
Yeah, the winter's been good in the West this year.
Yeah,
warm and wet.
Yeah, I saw 4 days ago, I guess, just north of my house. There's some big cottonwoods and some fields, and normally there's 10, 15. I think there were probably 3 or 4 groups of like 30 plus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, out bunch of strutters out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, got them shot gobbling.
Nice.
There we go.
You did?
Yeah.
You go get a little.
I jumped out the door and yelled at him, "Hey!"
Oh, you just yelled, "Hey!" Huh?
What are you doing out there? Yeah, but there's a bunch. So it seems like there's a few, but I mean, all private land. How do you go about that private land, public land? Or is there enough turkeys on public land that guys should not have really any worries about it? They can go out and find turkeys and hunt?
There is. Man, I bet 90% of the birds that I kill are all in public.
Okay.
Out of the 7 I killed last year, one of them was on private ranch, and it was just because he's like, man, I've got a lot of birds, and it's also a ranch that we've taken like newbies hunting, my wife's friends. We used to do like wounded veteran hunts on this guy's place, so he knows me very well, and so he calls me and he's like, "Can you at least like come shoot something?"
Yeah.
So
It's a nice invite.
it is, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's enough opportunity on public, at least like in the areas that I'm familiar with Idaho and Montana and Wyoming.
That's what I've seen too. Like obviously, I love private land birds, but like killed a lot on public still.
Yeah.
But one thing I've always noticed too, though, there's always turkey lovers, like private landowners, and then you got the next door neighbors a turkey hater.
Yep.
And of course, all those birds are on that guy's property. It's like if one crosses the fence on my property, you shoot that bird.
Welcome to Western Montana.
Yeah.
That's
That's always the gamble that I always play. Like I have to hunt right next to it and trying to lure them across and stuff like that. But like, yeah, the guy who had all the turkeys, loved those turkeys. No one could touch them.
Yep.
Love seeing them every single day.
Feeding them.
Feeding them.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're not supposed to be.
Yep. They're standing on his car. He doesn't care. And then all the neighbors around are like, yep, kill every single one if you can. I'm like, I don't have enough tags.
Really? There's landowners that are like protecting them like little pets and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. That's quite a problem, actually, right?
no, it's-
I mean, I understand that's a big deal. I know that at least locally, they're the Division of Wildlife. They're constantly doing outreach and talking to people. It seems like New Harmony, you don't know New Harmony,
Yeah,
south of
yeah.
Cedar. Seems like there's a group of people or just certain types of people. I think a lot of them have moved in, and they
You
love,
don't say.
and they love seeing turkeys, and so they'll feed them. Yeah, they throw stuff out for them every day. All these turkeys move in onto their property, and they just exist. They hang out there.
And they won't let anybody hunt
They won't
them
let
or
anybody hunt
anything.
them. Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
want
I'm out of the
anybody.
loop here.
Yeah,
I didn't know there was
they
like
don't-
protectors out there.
Yeah, they don't want anybody
Like
hunting them.
Western Montana, I mean, that whole like Kalispell, Flathead Valley, all the way down through the Bitterroot, it's very, very similar. And there's a lot of birds in that area. It's very hard to like kill birds in that area because of it.
I literally had to have 10 different properties like locked down to try to like kill one bird because they would always be on the neighbor's property, like I said. So
Yep.
I'd have to line up so much to try to get one bird
Totally
killed.
out of the loop here. Wouldn't have thought that would turn.
Yeah, and I mean, some states they've tried passing regulation on the feeding part of things, but it's so hard to like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm feeding the chickadees, right? Like it's just one of those gray areas. It's just hard to enforce.
Is it illegal to feed wild turkeys?
And
Should be.
depending on the state. Yeah, Montana, we got it passed. I don't know. It's been several years now. But
Yeah, if you can't feed big game, aren't they considered big game?
Well, I think even when Utah allowed baiting,
They're not?
Some states.
Well,
they
Utah
are.
allowed
some
baiting for
states.
deer. It was in the regs that you cannot bait a turkey, but people would,
Yeah, feed them in the winter.
feed them in the winter. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just hard to regulate that and enforce it. So it happens.
You ever been on a turkey trap, Brady?
no,
Trapping turkeys?
Trapping. It's
no,
fun.
it sounds like a riot.
like for biology?
Yeah.
rocket,
Like moving.
rocket nets.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have. Yeah, I've been on one too. Was you lure them into like an enclosure, and then you have like a turkey hooker, which is like a big pole with a hook on the end. And you basically try to reach out there and hook them by the back of the legs or whatever, and pull them till you
Just
grab them.
like a walk-in trap.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Walk-in trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're big, powerful birds.
Oh,
I remember
they will
the
beat
first
the crap
turkey I
out of you.
grabbed. Yeah, the first turkey I latched onto, I was like, "Holy shit! This is way bigger and way more powerful than I would have thought."
Yeah.
They
like-
look big.
And
they
kind
look
of terrifying, to be honest.
Well, and then,
I mean, birds. Thank God they're not bigger and more aggressive. I mean, if they were, like we'd be toast.
A dead tom is pretty cool to walk up onto, but when you grab a hold of one of those and you've got it, by the legs,
It's like a mini emu.
it's pretty terrifying.
mini.
Did you find that?
Kind of
No, absolutely. Yeah, I've been on a couple trappings, and yeah, you learn really fast, like how to pick them up and where to grab them and what not to do. 'cause
Yeah.
Between their legs and their wings, they'll beat the crap out of
You
you.
guys been on sandhill cranes? You guys done that?
No.
I've shot some, but
Yeah.
they can be.
Wounded one?
Oh,
You've
yeah.
been, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like, is a wounded sandhill crane.
That's why I see all the retrievers with the goggles.
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Like you got to have real gear on your dog. If you're bringing dogs on a sandhill
Yeah.
hunt, they got to have some gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some turkeys beat the hell out of people.
Well,
That's going to be me out there with my
Highly
son.
entertaining.
I even had it happen. I don't know how many times where I get spurred going to pick a bird up after you shot him, and he's just got big spurs on his legs that you didn't know he had. You're just like, oh, and then all of a sudden he comes half alive and catches your thumb or something.
That's going to be me. I'm going to take my kid out turkey hunting for the first time, and he's going to watch me.
You'll get
Like,
spurred.
the turkey's just going to beat the shit out of me right in front of my son. He's going to love it, by the way.
Get that on video if you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, right.
I want to
Yeah.
see that.
Which birds out there have the longest spurs? Because it seems like all the ones I've hunted, like Merriam's and Rio Merriam hybrids, are always like rubbed, and even though it looks like an old bird,
They do not live in spur country.
No,
unfortunately.
you
I
never
love
get those good spurs. I do too.
Osceolas are known where they live down the swamps. That have huge spurs. I mean, I've seen photos this year of legit 2-inch hooks.
Oh man, it's big old cutters.
What is it? Do we just get rubbed on by rocks and different terrain out here?
That's the thigh. I think some of it's also genetic as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it'd be very easy for them to catch it on a rock. I mean, my wife killed a bird a couple years ago that had like a solid, for Merriam's, like a solid inch spur on one side, and then the other one was just nothing. Like there was the scale there. Where you could see there should have been a spur. But then last year we doubled up on the same property, and we killed basically twins, and they both had like 1.25 inch, like legit white tip Merriam's, and actually one of hers. Yeah, we both killed the same ones, and hers is the one that's at the taxidermist. I don't know how that works out. But yeah, so like I was like, we need to get one of these mounted because
it's got to be topography based. It's like killing a buck that lives in the sand flats, or if he lives up in the rocks, right? Like
his teeth
got
are
to
all
be
worn
something
out.
about it.
Yeah. But I've seen I mean Easterns too. I've got a set. Biggest bird I've killed back in Kansas was 1 7/8. Both of them were 1 7/8.
You 7/8 them. You can't just not 2 inches.
No,
7/8 and something.
7/8.
I couldn't stretch
He ain't 30 inches wide. He's
like-
29.7.
It's a sin to 7/8 something.
What's the weight of a big tom? Like live weight?
Our birds out here 20. Birds like I refer to back home, right? 'Cause Kansas, that's what I'm familiar with. I've killed a couple 25s. That's getting there. I think it was Kentucky for a few years was known for almost 30-pound birds getting killed. I don't know if they're like living at dairy farms all year or if it just happens to be just a giant bird.
See, that's why it's so powerful.
There you go.
Rather than doing 20-pound birds.
20-pound bird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a Boone and Crockett scoring system for turkeys?
We don't have Boone and Crockett. We have an NWTF scoring system.
Yeah, I always hear about something, but what actually involves?
What is it? That's what I was gonna get at. That's what I was gonna get into. Is like, what turkey are you trying to kill? Like, which one are you pumped to kill? Like,
I like spurs. I like that's myself.
So, are you looking at the spurs as they're coming in?
I'm not.
No.
I'm looking at if it's a mature bird, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
Which basically means like, well, you can't even really look at beards in our part of the world because a lot of our birds are like our mature birds, 6 to 8 inch beards. I didn't kill a bird under 10 until I moved to Montana. Like everything in Kansas was 10 to 12.
I noticed too a lot of the western stuff, especially Montana, they're like paintbrush beards, like thick.
Yeah.
They aren't really like long, but they're just girthy, thick beards.
Yeah. Yeah. We just, for scoring sake, we just don't live in a good spot for that. But so scoring a turkey, you take the spur length, each spur length, add them up. So like if it's each one is an inch, right? So you got 2 inches of spur, you multiply that by 10, that gives you a number. You take
Why 10?
Easy math.
Easy math.
Okay, yeah. So
it's the formula. I don't know. It's just the formula.
So 2 times 10, we got 20 right now.
The weight, total weight,
Weight of the bird?
Hope we just got
total
done
weight of the
feeding.
bird.
Okay.
Just that, and then I hope I don't get this wrong. Beard length times 2, I believe. I'm gonna double check me on that one.
What if it's got 2 beards?
Total beard length.
Okay.
So
What's the most beards you've ever seen?
that I have ever seen, like in person, only 2. But I know there's some crazy anomalies of 6'8" bearded birds.
Holy shit.
And then I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Owens. He does the Pinhoti project.
Yeah.
Bird he killed last year. So anytime you get a multi-bearded bird, typically they're vertically lined up. He killed one last year. I just actually watched the film the other day. They were side by side. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was cool.
What's the...
So
Go ahead.
I'm just on the NWTF's website. Turkey record program began in the fall of 1982. There's more than 27,000 registered birds. They actually have a heat map of how many
Where's
records.
the biggest birds being killed, Brady?
Well, let's look at the heat map right now. Dude, this is badass.
That's just numbers of entries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably mostly
Loading
back
turkey
east.
records.
Yeah.
There was actually quite a bit of
Quite a bit.
like right through the middle.
Is there any Nevada entries?
So let's go.
Beards.
Oh,
All right,
here
you
we
killed
go,
a
here we go.
3-bearded bird?
Yeah.
Cody did? Really?
So those are atypical. That we classify typical and atypical as well.
Really?
A non-typical turkey.
Non-typical turkey.
A non-typical turkey.
You literally have the turkey record in the office. It's something you can be proud of right there, Cody.
When did that come from? What year? You drew a tag?
So
7 years to draw the tag, kill a three-bearded turkey. It's good.
Way to go.
So it looks
Yeah,
like
way to
in
use
here
your
they
points.
have records for different categories. Like they have an overall score record. Like looks like Clark County average 61, top 86.3.
Clark
Lauren
County,
Taylor
yeah.
has it. Weight 18 pounds. There's a 20-pound one. Beard 10. 12 is the
Yeah.
longest. Spur 1 is the lowest. 1.41 is the best in Clark County, Nevada, where we live right now.
How big were your spurs? You didn't even look at the spurs up at, did you?
Cody's sitting over there on a world record turkey.
Yeah, he might.
He didn't even know
might
it.
be.
Biggest turkey in Nevada.
But it seems, yeah, I mean, there's a lot in Texas. Obviously, Florida's dominating.
Yeah.
But there's
We have
quite a bit right there.
Nebraska,
too, Wyoming.
Kansas.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, that's over a little bit more.
There might be a link on there somewhere that's actually got the records.
Yeah, because this is
That's
kind of
just a
weird looking at the
database,
records right
basically,
there.
yeah.
What's the life history of a beard on a turkey? Is it just purely show out, male have a beard for, I mean, is it mating? Is that what it is? Because what is there a certain percentage of hens that have beards also, right?
Yeah, it's just a modified feather is all a beard is.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if the mating part of things really comes into it with the beard or not. It's definitely not like antlers, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, kind of.
Cody, our producer, is during the podcast joining NWTF right now so he can register his turkey.
Smart man.
His state record Nevada turkey.
I will say I used to be a member of NWTF. I'm not anymore.
Uh-oh.
No, I used to be. I enjoy their magazine a lot. Yeah, you were right with the scoring.
Yeah.
Weigh your bird in pounds and ounces, convert to a decimal, measure each spur, and multiply the combined length of spurs by 10, and then measure length of beard, multiply it by 2. Then you add together weight and points for spurs and points for beard.
I
There you go.
get contacted every now and then, every couple years. So somebody needs me to measure and verify.
Oh, you have official scores even, huh?
It's just got to be witnessed.
This time.
So
Can you talk us through, maybe you grab a drink, but I'm going to ask a question. What are hunting opportunities like throughout the West? I mean, are there states that people should be looking at? Like, man, this is a great turkey state. You got to have this state on your turkey tour.
not Montana.
Not Montana.
Right.
Sounds like you did okay in Montana.
Yeah, like I was telling you, we're fortunate because the way that Montana's structured is you can get a general tag and fill it pretty much statewide, but then 4 regions have regional tags that you can fill within those regions. So if you're willing to travel, unfortunately this time of year with me meeting with chapters and doing fundraisers across, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, I travel a lot. And so, you can kill 5 birds in the spring, which
In Montana. Is that it's over the counter?
Yeah.
That's what's a big testament, though, is to the population's increasing. Because we were talking off camera before. Like when I lived there, I could shoot 1.
Yep.
And now you can shoot a ton more. I would have been the guy going all around in Montana to go hunt birds because that's so fun.
Yeah.
But the population high now.
and the great thing about Montana is like you're going from like breaky country in eastern Montana to thick forest of the Bitterroot and Flathead area, right? Like, and everything in between.
Yep.
But for the most part in the West, like where the habitat can hold the birds, like the numbers are there, the opportunities there. My phone starts ringing because my number and everything's on our website. It starts ringing in November and December from mainly guys back east planning their trips, asking me, when to go, where to go, how are numbers, this and that. And because of YouTube, they're starting to become a lot more, much more of a highlight on some of our states in the West that have these opportunities. Obviously, like not really in Nevada because it's but California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming,
California, good turkey state?
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can shoot 3 still in California.
Really?
But you can only
That's
shoot
really
1 a
good.
day. You can only fill 1 tag a day. You can't fill multiple tags in a day in California. But
Is that mostly Northern California?
I think it's all across the board. Just depending on the habitats and
Yeah.
you know, and there's public land opportunity. I mean, I called in some birds in California for a couple guys several years ago. It was all on Forest Service. So
Interesting.
the opportunity is definitely there.
The only limited entry tag I've ever drawn in your state of Utah has been a limited entry turkey tag.
Well, as non-residents, that's about what we have.
That's all I have.
You can buy one over the counter. I will say that in Utah for
can.
May. You
The
can-
late season,
Yeah, you
though.
can hunt the May season, which sounds like that might be the way to go.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm picking up some tips here. I might be doing
Yeah,
I
that.
did stop buying points for limited entry turkey, so I might have
Yeah.
to start going back to the OTC May ground.
Well, there's guys that are trying to do the 49 state.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. It's
Yeah.
becoming like a
Oh, it's a thing.
lot
That's
of traveling for turkeys, right? Like they're trying to kill them in other states.
Yep.
There's a whole thing going on.
yep.
Where's the one state again? There's not turkeys?
Alaska.
That's what I thought. Alaska.
I've been told there's a population that probably wasn't supposed to be put there by some locals. I'm sure they're getting fed in the winter. It's
A little
gonna
bucket biology going on.
Yeah.
Can't be turkeys in Hawaii, are there?
Oh, there's a lot.
Dude, there's turkeys in New Zealand. When I went to New Zealand,
there's turkeys all over New Zealand.
when I went to New Zealand,
Really?
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm
Why are we going to New Zealand to hunt turkeys?
So I go to New Zealand. This is a long time ago, and going down there to do the huge expedition hunt and the whole deal. Driving on the highway, and there is literally over 100 turkeys on the highway that were stopped. They're all crossing. They don't give a shit. They're like 10 feet away from us. I'm
What
like,
are they? Merriam's?
I had no idea there was turkeys down
I
there.
don't know what they are down there. I think Rios probably.
Rios?
Rios are like that bird that was the easy one to trap and transplant and move
Right.
around, and they seem very, they can just adapt very well. That's why a lot of our hybrids.
Couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
Yeah.
that's what
I'm going down there for like these mountain animals, and we're driving on the highway, and we're in a traffic jam from turkeys in New Zealand. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
But yeah, Alaska, or I should say Alaska, Hawaii has a good number also. There's some outfitters that guide down there. There's also some public land opportunity down there.
Hawaiian turkey hunt sounds pretty dope.
Go do
That's-
an Axis
Yeah.
turkey combo.
That'd be amazing.
Pretty sweet in April, May.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Did we just plan a hunt?
Did we just plan
Yeah.
But yeah, that 49 state thing, man, it's taken off. Like I said, I get calls every year from guys like, we're flying in here because I can hit 3 states in that week type of a thing. It obviously takes guys a lot of time, but there's some guys that are doing it.
It's crazy.
I know guys.
It's cool though.
And-
I'm all for
You
like,
think about the hard states, so like Nevada, trying to draw
Yeah.
a tag. So North Dakota, you cannot turkey hunt North Dakota as a non-resident. They don't sell non-resident tags. Would they give us 3 tags to fundraise off of? So that's opportunity there, or the reservation. What is it? In
Do you guys like live auction those tags, those North Dakota tags?
we online auction them during our convention, and then every now and then, like
How much do they usually go for?
so. I don't know,
Yeah, what does an auction turkey tag go for?
Yeah, like what?
so our big one is we have a New Mexico Gould's tag.
I bet that one goes for a good.
And the reason is because it's one of the few that you can kill on the United States side for Gould.
For Gould?
New Mexico gets, I think, 1 or 2, and Arizona gets a few. And then there's a draw for both that's obviously very limited too. But that New Mexico one this year went for 9,000.
Wow.
1,500 here in Nevada.
The Nevada tags are 1,500. Like if you just buy the conservation tag or whatever.
Are they? Yeah.
So these guys are chasing these guys that are doing the 49
That's
states. That's their outlet.
Or they're applying for years, and if at some
Yeah.
point if they don't draw it, then that's the
Yeah.
option. Yeah.
Are you building points for turkeys in Western states?
I haven't been. I don't know why. I just haven't been.
I mean, you're doing your fair share of turkey killing.
I've kind of spoiled with my region where I'm at. Like, so I have yet to kill a bird in Wyoming, which kind of annoys me because I've covered Wyoming for like 10 seasons now.
Got to get that off the list this year. It's got to be your go-to.
I know. It does. Wyoming and Washington are on my list this year.
Yeah, there we go.
What do you do with your turkeys? You eat them? How do you like to cook a turkey?
Yeah, I eat them. So when we have good years, every now and then I'll pluck a few of them, like right off the gate. Or, we're done taking pictures and all that. You can, like, turkeys are pretty easy to pluck as fresh as you can get them. And keep them whole just like you would for Thanksgiving turkey. The problem in our house is just me and my wife. And so, like, it's hard for me to cook big meals like that. And then it's like, now what do we do with it? I would say probably 90% of people that go to is just skin them out, breast them out. Unfortunately, people still don't save the legs, which
The legs are so good.
baffles me. But and I grew up with just got the breast meat off. That's just the only way I was taught until I really started looking into it. Yeah, taking the legs, the wings actually, the base of the wing joints has quite a bit of meat on it too. Legs is one of those things like slow cooking it, like crock pot, using it for turkey and noodles. Or one thing I like to do is just pull all the meat and then flash fry it with like some taco seasoning or something. Just give that a little crisp. With the leg meat, you can do a lot with it.
Pancake batter's really good. Cube them up, pancake batter.
Yeah.
Do a lot with pheasants. Yeah.
Just like in general, pancake batter. I love pancakes.
Fantastic. So I'm in on
You
this.
cube up really small, throw some eggs in there, get some like milk or whatever, make a little thing.
It's got to be eggs if Brady's involved. He's cooking. There's always eggs.
I do
Gotta be.
Do love me some eggs.
Got to be
A
eggs.
trick an old timer back home taught me was you cube it up and then soak it in buttermilk or milk and brown sugar for 24 hours. The milk and brown sugar thing's amazing because it sweetens it up.
That does sound good.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And then fry it with pancake batter apparently.
I'm in on that one. Yep, love pancakes.
I like the brown sugar and pancake batter.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I hunted the turkey and it just always tastes better to me. But it's like it does taste better than a Thanksgiving turkey for every reason. I like the flavor of wild turkey.
Then a butterball turkey.
Yeah, like butterball turkey's just kind of fake.
It's like everything, man. Like everybody thinks it's dry and it's terrible, and it's all on how you prep it and cook it, just like anything wild.
Yeah, just like all the other
I
animals.
love eating ducks, and everyone say, "Oh, ducks are so dry," but it's like it's how you cook a duck, how you cook a goose.
Yeah, we do throughout the summer. We'll do wild game Wednesdays at our house, and like my wife has a bunch of friends that don't hunt. Really, have never really been around it. Our freezers are full. That's all it is wild game at our house, and so I like to introduce them to different things.
Yeah.
Coyote was on the menu once.
Ooh.
I'd skip that one.
That's
But,
no for me.
it's a hard no.
You brought up ducks, and like a plucked, fatty, seared mallard breast is like the favorite thing for any of these people that have been over to the house.
Really?
And Doug gets such a bad rap because there's that fine line if you overcook it a little bit and all of a sudden, it's livery and tough.
Or undercook it a little bit. They're greasy and Widgeon's my favorite duck. That's my favorite duck to cook.
Okay.
I think we need a combo an Osceola and gator hunt at the same time. Can we do
Ooh,
that?
we can do. Did we just plan another hunt? That sounds fantastic as well.
Osceola, shoot a gator as well.
Sounds like we're discontinuing the podcast because we're going.
we auction one of those off. I think about every year. At our
combo?
convention. A combo.
Oh, here we go.
We get an outfitter. I think it's God's Country Outfitter down there. They do a combo for us.
Will they do a 3-on-1? Not
Brady, you can shoot the turkey.
in the way that
I want the
anyone.
gator, man. I want the gator.
the gator.
I need some new boots.
Gator sounds fun.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite turkey to hunt of all the subspecies? If you could choose one.
Subspecies, I was gonna say the loudest one. Of all the subspecies. So at the top of my bucket list that I haven't killed is a Gould's.
I hear ghouls are just amazing.
But I have yet to kill an Osceola either.
The ones you've hunted, though.
The ones I've hunted.
If you could only hunt one the rest of your life, what would it be?
Aren't the Miriams the go-to? Like those are. That's like the.
They are. I like the Miriams because of the country they live in and the beauty with the white tips.
Yeah,
White
that's
tips
like what everybody thinks of with a turkey is.
So Gould's is basically an Eastern sized, which is a bigger turkey, but looks like a Miriam's.
Yeah.
With the pure
the
white
white.
tips.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's at the top of my butt. Like if I have yet to kill an Osceola or a Gould's, if you gave me the option today, I'd be in Mexico. Like
I got a great contact for you.
Yeah, Mr. J. Scott.
Got a great contact for you. They run a shitload of turkey hunts down there.
Jay.
Yeah, Jay and Phil Kramer.
Yeah.
They run a shitload.
Turkey or
cool.
Yeah, turkey or elk. You got to pick.
Oh man.
I know you're an archery elk hunter.
I am.
Isn't the best part of this question is you don't have to pick because you have elk in September and
Trick question.
No,
turkeys in spring.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you don't
I'm
have
glad
to
there are
pick.
different times. The they're so equal to me. I would say elk only because of the amount of meat that I get off an elk.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
It takes a lot of turkeys to make up for one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do people get annoyed with that question? It's like that quintessential question of people saying like, "Oh, turkey hunting is just like elk hunting," and all the elk hunters get their bird in a saddle about it.
Honestly, it sells it for me that, you know, a guy like
Yeah.
Jason is talking about. It's hard for him to decide. Like, okay, well then
Yeah.
I want to go try this turkey thing out then. Like, you know what I mean?
I know,
You obviously do both of it. So
Yeah.
What do you think sounds cooler, a bugle or a gobble? Because I've gotten shit for this answer before, so I want to hear what you have to say.
nothing better.
I'm a diehard elk guy, and like a turkey gobbling on a roost is a pretty fascinating sound. It's like one of the more interesting sounds in the world.
But an elk bugle.
But I'm not gonna go that far,
Yeah.
but I am gonna say in terms of, you know, nature and just cool
It is
sounds
cool.
and just being a cool animal, a turkey gobbling on a roost in the morning, like that early morning light in the spring, it's one of the most fascinating sounds I
Yeah.
think that exists.
I think for me, only because I grew up in like turkey country, and I've been in elk country like 10 years now. I think elk just because it's
More new.
More new.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and one of my favorite sounds from a turkey is not even a gobble, it's the spitting and drumming when they're
Oh,
strutting.
yeah.
And until you feel and hear that, like, because that's when you know they're close. That's what gets me really excited.
Spitting and drumming.
Yep.
There we go. Now I'm really into turkeys.
Yeah.
So what with NWTF? Like, what's NWTF's plan, goals? Like, what are they going after right now?
In our western states, man, it's that forest management side of things. Like we do a ton of projects on stuff that's not even necessarily like with turkeys inhabiting it, right? Our big goal right now is landscape level forest management projects in the West. When you look regionally, we've got so many initiatives. We work side by side with the Forest Service on so much. We've got this wildfire crisis strategy. I mean, there's not a turkey in the name, right? But it's like we understand what resources that we have that are at risk for wildfires. I mean, we see it every summer all across the West. So when you look at like what we're doing across the West, that's a big part of it. We're still promoting turkey hunting, like we're still active in that role.
Yeah.
But like there's bigger fish to fry in some regards too when it comes to just our overall resource.
Yeah.
So
That what'd you call it? The fire? What'd you call it?
it's a wildfire crisis strategy.
I mean, that sounds like it would be pretty pertinent to all big game animals and not just turkeys,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah, that's a good article that's actually on NWTF's website too.
About that.
Yeah, strategy for the wildfire west, and it's about the what you just said, the wildfire crisis strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, we created we call it the Big Sky Forestry Initiative in Montana about 2 years ago, and that's what it was based off of is what can we create where we can use it to leverage like big dollar donor money. You know, as a nonprofit, we can then leverage that with grants and federal monies and everything else to put more work on the ground. We wanted something like just for Montana, because Montana, like when you start talking wildfires and what's at risk in Montana, and especially now with all the houses, more and more houses every year going up. So we created that initiative, and like one project that I really like to let people know about is it's called our West Central project. It's the entire Bitterroot front. So if you're familiar with like Missoula South, that whole valley on the west side, that's the Bitterroot front. There's always a big fire there. Lolo fire. I don't know what year that was.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago.
Went to school in Missoula. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Familiar with all that.
So it's West
Brady and I both did.
Yeah, we both did.
Yeah.
This West Central project is basically working on that wildland urban interface, that whole stretch, the entire front. And so we were able to, like, we partnered with one of Sitka's conservation grants they gave us, and then a couple other funding sources. And basically, I think to date we've put, and it's not even that much. It sounds like that much, like $35,000 or $40,000 towards it. But what that did was it unlocked like over $700,000 worth of other money to get put on the ground in that area. So like
that's the secret sauce. With
that's the power
nonprofits, yeah.
that we bring to the table. Like we have a very strong conservation side of things. Like some of our organizations, they just focus like staffing on fundraising side of things and putting the money on the ground. But we have a huge conservation side of things. That's where that's our pride and joy is, okay, we give you $1, now make $10 out of that before it gets put on the ground.
Yep. That's the power you guys have for sure.
Yep.
How is membership, and give us a sales pitch for why somebody should join NWTF, even if they're not a turkey hunter.
Yeah. Our membership right now is actually doing really good. It's climbing. We took a huge dip like a lot did during COVID because we couldn't hold our events. Most of our memberships, 75% of our memberships come from our local events. But right now we were up to, I think the last update is pushing 240,000. I think we're right in the mid 230,000 members across the country.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's strong. Yeah. It's one of the bigger conservation organizations membership wise.
For sure.
Why people should become a member? I mean, everything that we've talked about already, it doesn't matter where you live. Like the work that we're doing is, if you don't turkey hunt, if you elk hunt, you grouse hunt, if you live in an area that's susceptible to wildfire, water quality, we've got several water initiatives, water riparian initiatives. So like that eastern Montana, the Great Plains areas, we got initiatives strategically to get a bunch of money, bunch of work done to protect those waterways, that resource. And then, back east, it's going to be more focused on the bird, just because that's the stronghold for the wild turkey and the turkey hunters in general. But yeah, I mean, if you elk hunt, deer hunt, any of it, I mean, we're pretty much covering just about anything and everything. And we haven't even touched on like our outreach side of things of getting new hunters involved, kids, women. I mean, that's a whole different side of the organization too.
This might be a really dumb question, but is there different rules for kids with turkeys, or is it 12 and does it follow the youth hunting rules in all the states?
I think you can hunt at a younger age.
Right?
I want to say. Yeah.
A lot of states you can hunt them at a little younger age.
Yeah. I know
that's what I remember, but I don't know if
every
that was
state
a
is
stupid question.
Every state is a little different though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know in Montana, like I shouldn't say it. No, I'm pretty sure that apprentice program that we launched several years ago, I think it's 10 to 12. I know like back home in Kansas, there wasn't a minimum age. Like my buddy's, one of my best friends' his daughter shot her first turkey at 5.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I want to start getting, my son's turning 5 in 10 days. So 9 days. So yeah, I'm like really starting to look at things we can do together.
Yeah, I think they have to have hunter safety, but I do think in a lot of states you can hunt at a younger age. I know that my youngest just went through hunter safety a few weeks ago, and I could call him after this podcast and he'd know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he would know.
He's that into it. He's been looking for
Awesome.
opportunities to get out. So I know that's on the list. So I would say you probably just have to check your local state rules and regs and see.
Are you sold on turkeys? You getting back into turkeys?
Yeah, man. I think they're cool. I'm
really, like I said, selfishly, it was interesting when Lane and you guys reached out on Slack about NWTF. I'm like, I got a lot of questions right now because I'm watching a lot of kids with their dads, and I want to do that.
My favorite turkey story?
Yeah.
This is my buddy Ryan. Hopefully
Story time for trail. Let's hear it.
He won't mind me. This is one of my favorites, but he had a turkey tag, and we were hunting the Penguich Lake, and we went up this road. We were just kind of creeping along, listening. We heard a tom gobble. So it wasn't too far from the truck. And so he stepped out. He's in jeans and a white T-shirt. We were just kind of cruising, listening, trying to pinpoint an area to maybe go hunt in the future. And so he stepped out of the truck, and I just started giving some clucks, and see if I could get a response. And it was gobbling back to us. And so he dipped off the road to kind of cut the distance between the truck and the tom, right? And so he's gone. I'm just like doing just enough clucks to like keep the tom gobbling. And I don't know, 15, 20 minutes goes by. No gunshots, nothing's going on, but I can still hear the tom, and all of a sudden, just like you're saying, quiet, he'd come in quiet, but I watched him walk full strut right underneath the tailgate, which was down at that point. He walked underneath the tailgate. I watched him in the rear view go right across the road and then up the other side. And then, 20 minutes later, I just quit calling because I'm like, I already called him into the truck.
He's here and gone now.
Yeah, here and gone now. But, 20 minutes passes. Here comes my buddy Ryan. He's hoofing it up and he's like, man, I don't know. I didn't find him. And I was like, well, he literally walked right underneath the tailgate.
He literally put himself in the truck.
Yeah, he just walked underneath.
What more do you want?
So I hadn't made another call, but we made another loop on him and we got out ahead of him and we ended up killing the bird. But we have a photo with him and he's got a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans on. But that was just a Tom that was just hot and heavy.
That's what I'm looking for. Me and my son. That's what we're going after.
That's one of my favorite turkey memories is watching this Tom full strut. And it was a big Tom walk right behind in the rear view. Walk right behind the truck because it calls him in. But they're a cool animal, and I think more people. It's hard because, the spring we get busy, and it seems like all my kids are traveling and playing different sports and stuff. But and shed hunting's a big deal in Utah.
And we're all trying to catch up on life after
all trying to catch
game
up.
season.
Yeah, but I think they're a super cool animal, and I think anytime, like you were saying, that you can call and you can have that interaction back and forth between an animal and call an animal, and it's a unique opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
And it's still fairly new. In our states out in the West.
Yeah, it really is.
Numbers are still climbing from past introductions, and I think there's like I said, a lot more social media and a lot more content being produced in turkey hunting in the West. But
yeah, I will say back in the day though, like watching turkey videos, I was never like super excited about it. But then you go and do it the first time.
Yeah,
it's totally different than watching a turkey film. It's so much more enjoyable.
I want to do it.
I'm interacting.
I'm getting into it.
And you get hooked.
Do it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's
my
so
kid
fun.
will like it too. I know he will. Just to, the noise, elk hunting, right? It's the noises, the bird. He's going to be in close. He's going to see it. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Hear him gobble is cool.
Yeah.
It's the best sound in the world.
Cool. Did you guys any other questions?
I feel like you right now. My bladder is about to explode.
It is?
I feel like Trail. This is the one time I have to admit that I'm going to be the one that has to run.
We didn't do a promo code at the top. Do you want to hit us with a
You
promo
can hit
code?
that, and I'm
okay. You're gonna bounce.
I'm busting. I literally feel like Trail.
Yeah. I'll hit you with. You want to do it? Or you want me to do it?
You can do this. I might do the last one.
Yeah. So I guess first and foremost, join NWTF. Sign up. Put money where your mouth is and put it back into the ground and help those guys, whether it's turkeys or deer or elk or whatever it might be that's going to benefit. So join NWTF, and then if you want to join goHUNT Insider, you can use the promo code podcast. We do cover turkey draw odds.
We do have some turkey articles.
So we do have
too,
some turkey
tactics.
articles. We also have turkey gear in the gear shop. We're going to be adding more. Part of the reason we want to pick your brain, hopefully find some more gear that we can add to the shop that's applicable to the turkey hunter. If you sign up using the promo code podcast, when you sign up for an insider membership, you're going to get $50 back in the goHUNT gear shop that you could use towards the purchase of gear, including turkey hunting gear. So sign up, use the promo code podcast. And with that, we're out.
Appreciate you coming down, especially on a Sunday.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it. I do think we are getting ready to launch a big elk hunt raffle package that people should look out for.
Oh yeah, let's plug that.
That's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't want to, because you guys are involved in that a little bit too. I don't know if Lane has told you or not, but
yeah, Lane briefed us on it.
I'm just finding out, but go ahead.
No. So we've got a 3-day Montana rifle elk hunt that got donated to us from an outfitter that donates elk hunts to us every year. It's phenomenal. Nosler pitched in a rifle. We got like $4,000 worth of Vortex optics, goHUNT stuff. What else do we have? Sitka's pitched in. Kafari just committed to a pack.
Nice.
We've got almost $20,000 worth of stuff. And what I think is cool about it is we're the NWTF, right? We're the turkey people, and we're raffling off an elk hunt.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be launching sometime in early April.
Okay.
So
how do people get entered?
So there'll be a link website that we're gonna, us and all of our partners and donors are probably gonna promote. One cool thing about it on the goHUNT side of things is we're gonna have a price level of you spend so much on tickets, and we're gonna have a goHUNT membership that's included with that.
Awesome.
Nice.
So
Right on.
Yeah. I do remember, what was it, Giving Tuesday? We did a thing back. Everyone who signs up goHUNT membership, we donated it over. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right to NWTF. So yeah, looking forward to doing more stuff with NWTF.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out. We'll have more details for that, I'm sure. 3-day elk hunt.
Sign me up.
Right on. Sign you up.
Yeah, right. Big out guy over here.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks for coming down. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.